सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
भाषाद्वेषमात्रतः
मुक्तिर्विनात्मज्ञानात्
मुक्तिर्विनात्मविज्ञानात्
विज्ञानात् मुक्तिर्विनात्मविज्ञानात्
मुक्तिर्विनात्मविज्ञानात्
इति वेदान्तडिण्डिमः So this is continuing of, whenever it starts with na, we know what it means. It means that it's negating one thing and what? Mata abhinivesha means the abhinivesha, entering. Mata, means specific, what is that called? Specific beliefs. Mata, Mata abhinivesha means holding on to specific beliefs dogmatically. So mata abhinivesha means dogmatism, fanaticism of the religious kind. Meaning what? I am the only one that is correct. I am the only one that is right. Nothing else is correct. Nothing else is, right. My way is the only way. Nothing other than me. So this is the only one that's broadcast on that, So
the video is up, Swamiji. It's just frozen.
Okay. Maybe they will come back here.
Yeah.
So mata abhinivesha means my way or the highway. That is what is called mata abhinivesha. Meaning I certain, this we see this all the time. One grows up in a certain way, and then one's beliefs are also based on that, and even against logic, in the face of all wrong things, that is what one is holding on to. This is what is called fanaticism. Like one extreme example of matabhinivesha is the belief that I can strap a bomb around myself and then go and detonate myself in the middle of a place where, in a marketplace where everybody is shopping quietly or having a good time with their families on a weekend afternoon. And this way I will go to heaven. Forget what happens to them. They need to be killed because they are not following our way. This is an extreme example of matabhinivesha. Or the witnesses, the Jehovah's Witnesses, we talk of Sakshi, single witness. Jehovah's Witnesses is Sakshinaha, plural. And so these witnesses will come and try to give you pamphlet at the door. And you say, no, thank you, I have my own way. We don't need this. What will they say? You will go to hell. Yeah, that belief, it's fine if they believe that. But the reason it becomes matabhinivesha is because I foist that belief on others who have their own beliefs without taking into account and giving them the freedom that just like I have the freedom to believe what I want, they also have the freedom to believe what they want. So this matabhinivesha means holding on to something in the face of all logic all the reason. And this matabhiniveshatvat, na means what? This you, by holding on to something that you hold dear, you are not going to gain freedom, liberation, moksha. You will have what? More samsara. That's why. And then what? Yeah. So na what? Na muktihi. That muktihi comes in the second line. Don't forget it. Look at the word. Yeah. Na muktihi. We have to say add that mukti first. After na you add mukti. Na muktihi. Kasmat. From what are the things that don't give mukti? First is matabhiniveshitvat. Not through fanatical, holding on to fanatical beliefs about this, that, and the other. And then what? And we'll see that more. We are just seeing the meaning. Na bhasha. Only if I speak Sanskrit all the time, I will get moksha. And people say this. There are some Sanskrit fanatics. Yeah. And you are talking to them in English, they are replying in Sanskrit and also asking you more questions in Sanskrit after, after you have said to them, no habla Sanskrito, you have said, you have said that, but still they are speaking in Sanskrit. And the whole idea of communication is gone. So like this, they have, so many connections and so many, I'm finding it very distracting. All right, so yeah, so please do something so that it is not, not distracting anymore. Oh, it's gone. Okay, good. So, because it's repeating my words.
It's repeating. I don't even know if it's recording at this point. So
yeah. So, bhasha means, this like one example. And some people think that if I learn Sanskrit and through Sanskrit there is moksha. How? Because Sanskrit is close to Bhagavan. And by knowing Sanskrit I will be close to Bhagavan. It is called Deva Bhasha. Of course, and if and all the Upanishads are written in Sanskrit, so one becomes a Sanskrit buff. And then what happens? Nothing happens, that's all. One goes on and on and on in Sanskrit, and then you let go of the baby along with the water. Yes. What is the baby? Atma, baby. Bhagavan, baby. Atma as Bhagavan, which is the source of mukti, is also let go of, because one is wondering what is the, in Tattvamasi, what is the grammatical ending of Tat? 1, 1. Okay. Tvam, 1, 1. Asi, Asi, 2, 1. Like this, one is keeping on making grammatical declensions and making notations of the prefixes and suffixes. Asa, bhuvi, oh, that dhatu, okay. Yes, asti, sthaha, santi, asi, like this, making grammatical notations. Then in the forest of grammar, you don't see anything. Yeah, you're lost in this girl. And grammar is a forest. Yes. Grammar is a big forest. You try to look for the root of one word, it will lead you to something else. And then you try to say, oh, that's where it led me to, let me see what that is. And that leads you to elsewhere. Elsewhere, 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 elsewhere. And then you're nowhere. This is what happens. So, na muktihi. Bhashayaha na muktihi. And then same thing, there are certain other people who say that only if I know Latin, I will reach God. People say this. Latin is the language spoken in heaven. So I have to learn Latin. I have to go to Latin Mass. Same thing. Why Sanskrit? Latin also. Yeah. Bhasha. Bhasha also includes, bhusha, culture. That only by following this culture, I'm going to do this. And then what? Bhasha, Vesha. Vesha means what one is wearing. So, if I'm wearing, if I'm wearing Western dress, because moksha is Eastern, if I'm wearing Western dress, it will not come. Correct? Make some signs of life. Yeah, so, Western dress, it's not going to come. Moksha. Why? Because moksha is from Sanskrit. Eastern attire has to be there. This is all called fanaticism, holding on to things. Vesha matrataha. Matrataha means only through. Only through bhasha, vesha and mata. The one is not going to gain mukti. Only matrataha means only through. Meaning that not that the bhasha is not important, not that the vesha is not important, but by itself it's a means at best, it cannot be the end. Yeah. If you make it the end, it's the end of the pursuit. That's all it is. You cannot make it the means into an end. And people do this all the time. They say karma yoga leads to moksha. Yes, but indirectly, not directly. Karma yoga is a preparation for moksha. So therefore I have to keep doing karma. And then what? Don't expect results. Who will do anything without expecting results? Adi Shankara says even a dull person, karmani, mandopi na pravartate, even a slightly dull person who cannot even, barely, just get through life. If you ask them to do something, they will say, what for? Yeah. Prayojanam anuddishya karmani mandopi na pravartate. He says this in Gita Bhashya. That without, knowing the purpose, nobody does anything. And so here karma yoga is not the purpose of moksha. It is just a lifestyle, a committed lifestyle for preparation. We have to understand that. But people say, do karma, don't expect result. And they will quote this thing. They will quote this. The trees bear the fruits. Do they say it's only for this one and not for that one? No. The river flows on both the banks. Doesn't say I'm going to not flow on this bank and only go into that bank. The rain falls on everything. It doesn't say I'm going to only wet this field and not irrigate that field. So just like that, you have to be the selfless giver. You have to put service before the self, which is a motto of this Rotary Club. Yeah. And what does Vedanta say? Without self, there is nothing. Everything is for the sake of self alone. And so, this whole thing about where the small way or the means is made into the end is what is, talked about. Learn Sanskrit to study Vedanta. Oh, that means what? I forget Vedanta and catch hold of Sanskrit. And then we say that, okay, this is the lifestyle that is conducive. Do yoga. Oh, and some people are like this. If I don't do yoga every single day 3 times, then my food doesn't get digested. If I don't do yoga, something horrible happens to me. If I don't do this, something happens to me. And I was at a conference one time and somebody was talking on meditation. This person who is an expert on meditation is talking about meditation and says, excuse me, I'm very jittery this morning because I didn't have time to meditate. I didn't have time to meditate. Poor thing, So meditation means you have to do it every day, and this is our way and this is what we're going to hold on to. If you hold on to the way, then what happens? Hold on to the means. The end is obscured. The means become the end. That is why all this dogmatism comes. That's why, Vedanta has to be freeing. If you don't meditate 10 days also, it should be okay if you can't. You should be okay. That's the whole idea. And, so that's the whole idea. It's not that I have to do this, and if I don't do this, I will not get moksha, and if I don't get moksha, the world is going to fall apart. You already have moksha. That is what makes one free and easy. Yeah, easy. One is like a wanderer. You just nibble, nib on the grass of meditation, then you just, it doesn't have to be done only in one way. There are many ways of meditating. Meditation is connection with yourself. And whatever that can substitute to connect with yourself, that is what you have to do. Because anything if you hold on to in a dogmatic way, nothing likes to be held on to like that. It stops being efficacious. You start doing meditation with that kind of a dogged attitude, it will become routinized. I can guarantee, I can write it down and put a stamp on it, it will become routinized. I have to do this. If I don't do this, I'm gone. And then I have to do this, I have to have this cushion, I have to have this corner of the room, and this is the time of meditating, and I'm doing it like this. And then what happens? Then it becomes routinized. Because that freshness has gone from it, because I have squeezed it into a corner by making it into what is the means, into a goal. Goal is myself. So whatever ways I can get to myself, okay, maybe there is no time to meditate because, I'm traveling or doing something, or I'm busy otherwise. There are other ways of connecting. And in fact, it's nice sometimes when we don't have the time to meditate, because it forces us to think of what other ways we can connect instantly, what other ways we are not seeing. Same thing with language, same thing with lifestyle, same thing with culture. Lifestyle alone is not moksha, is not going to lead to moksha. The language alone is not going to lead to moksha. Meditation alone is not going to lead to moksha. Karma yoga alone is not going to lead to moksha. These are all auxiliary ways to still the mind, to clean out the ragadveshas, so that I'm ready for the knowledge. And that's what is said in the next line. Muktihi jnanam vina, jnanad vina. Jnanad, fifth case also, vina takes. Vina means without jnanam. Jnanad vina muktihi na. That na has to be taken from the first line. Na muktihi matabhiniveshitvat. Na muktihi bhasha vesha matratah. And then na muktihi what? Vina jnanat. Don't say namuktihi jnanat. You have to put vina there. Yeah, namuktihi jnanat means even with knowledge there is no freedom. Okay, then what to do? Wind up class right now already. Short class today. Already that also we'll have to wind up, because what's the point? Yeah. Jnanad eva muktihi, jnanad vina namuktihi. So that namuktihi has to be taken to the first line. You have to carry namukti from the mukti you have to carry from the last line and put it after the na, and that na again has to be, do anuvritti, bring it down. Na muktihi matabhiniveshitvat, na muktihi bhasha vesha matratah. Matratah is only because of, and na muktihi, don't say atmajnanat, na muktihi vina atmajnanat iti vedanta dindimaha. So namuktihi vina atmajnanat. Without self-knowledge, there is no freedom. In fact, the freedom is only due to self-knowledge. All these are little side dishes. Puja, Vesha, Bhusha, meditation, and my lifestyle and my routine, and all these things are little side dishes. And if I let go of the main dish in order to accommodate the side dishes, then I'm in a big soup. Correct? Yeah. This is what happens. This is what frequently happens. The teaching is given up to make room for other things. And this is where the caution is that Vesha, Bhusha, Bhasha, and what else? The Matabhinivesha, whatever you believe, however you believe your life's trajectory and your own beliefs, all those are not going to, fructify in the cessation of samsara. The cessation of samsara is an inside job as a result of the exposure to the teaching. The cessation, because samsara is not outside, it is within. So frequently, as one grows committed to the pursuit, the ideologies and the idea also start to grow and gather and have a foothold in the mind, that this is how it should be. If it is not this, this is, a bad thing. I have to meditate. Like that person said, I was on the plane, so I couldn't meditate, and I'm distressed today. So these have tos, and the foothold of the have tos have to be loosened. How? By making the main commitment, and the main form of meditation is really Shravanam. Because if you are able to listen for 1 hour, 2 hours in a concerted and a committed way, without getting distracted, without falling asleep, you have meditated for that much time. That itself is meditation. Shravanam mukhya sadhanam, and then so the other things that one has to do, or one wants to do, or one is committed to doing because of whatever one thinks one's priorities are, the side dishes, if they take up the room on the plate, then the main dish is lost. There is no room for the main dish. And so, here the main dish is what? Jnanam, Atma Jnanam. So the teaching is always prioritized, everything else happens around it. For the meditation, etc., happens around it. And so therefore I don't lose touch with that teaching, because some matabhinivesha comes in the way. Oh, too much Sanskrit, I'm not going to class anymore. People may think that, too much this, I'm not doing this. Why so many classes? I don't need. And I've been studying for 4 years now, and so I don't need, it's enough. So these are the feelings that those are all, fancies and footholds, that those fancies must not give a place to rest in the heart. Because when one does that, then the main focus of what is the stabilizing force in my life, and what is showing its phala, its fruit in the everyday, is lost. And usually we see this happen just as one is ready to make a big transformation. Just as the person is ready to transform, the ahankara says, this is of no use. There is a feeling. The feeling comes so strong that one believes it. This is of no use. What has happened? Nothing has happened. I'm still getting angry. I'm still getting annoyed. I'm still getting upset. I'm still sad. I'm still, at that same level. So this is of no use. So I better stop. I better, get on with my life, because I'm wasting so much time on Vedanta. People feel this. Nothing is happening. And that is when something is getting ready to happen. And Mr. Ahankara or Ms. Ahankara comes in the way, and then hijacks the situation. So that is why it is given. This matabhinivesha doesn't mean just dogmatic religious beliefs. Dogmatic spiritual fancies and fantasies lurking within the heart about my own, development, my own growth, what I think I need. All these things are called matabhinivesha. And if you give them abhinivesha, means entry into the heart space, then finished. Gone. And so therefore Atma Jnanam vina muktihi na syat, it's not there. Iti Vedanta Dindimaha. Thus spake Vedanta, thus proclaims Vedanta. And then on the same note, न काम्य प्रतिषिद्धाभिः क्रियाभिर्मोक्षवासना ईश्वरानुग्रहात् सा स्यात् इति वेदान्तडिण्डिमः. Yeah. So further on the same note of confusing the means for the ends, na what, and you have to take it to the last word of the first line. Na moksha vasana. Vasana means predilection or desire for liberation. or the predilection for liberation, the penchant for liberation, for moksha. So the desire for liberation is na what? Na kamya, na kamyena, na kamyaihi, not through doing the enjoined actions or desired actions that bring in the desired objects. So it also, since kamya is mentioned, we can include nitya karma also. So by desire based actions, kamya karma, nitya karma, enjoined actions. Because the feeling is, this moksha is very interesting, because as long as you see that I am already free, then only this is possible. As long as even there is a whiff of a feeling that moksha is away from me and I have to gain it, we fall into the vat of wrong and confused conclusions. What is moksha has to be clarified every day. Because otherwise you think that it's away from you, and then I have to do all these things. And if I am a goody two shoes, I will get moksha. I have to do this, then I have to do that, then I have to do that. I have to, wear stripes of vibhuti, vibhutaya, and then, looking like a zebra, I have to go out and confusing the people. And then, I have to have this, I have to, you catch on to these things. This is latching on, catching on. Veda says I have to do this. Veda says, Brahman is available only from 4 to 6 a.m. What is that called? Brahma Muhurta. Yeah, that's the Brahma Muhurta. The rest of the time, Brahman needs a lot of sleep. Brahman is, tired out, poor thing. And because, look at the state of this Jagat, it is enough to tire out Brahman also. So if you want to contact that raw Brahman, the pure Brahman without the Jagat, you want to bypass the Jagat and contact 4 to 5:30. Actually 6 is also too much, because nowadays everybody is going to work early because they want to come back early. They want to retire early. They want to do everything early except Vedanta study. That they will say, some other time. We'll see later. That's the only thing that's put off for later. Everything else is early. So now, Brahman I have to contact. And imagine a person who is unable to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, the person will be forever morose. And even the person who is able to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, that person also has to make sure and see that all time zones are Brahman alone. Celestial time zone, Brahman. US Pacific time zone, Brahman. Eastern time zone, Brahman. Mountain time zone, Brahman. India time zone, Brahman. Every time, South America time zone, Brahman. North America, all the time zone, Brahman. Yeah, this is Brahman alone. That is what I have to be flexible. A student of Vedanta has to be committed and flexible. It's very, very, because otherwise if there is rigidity, there is that knowledge is not happening. The knowledge is not fructifying. You just hold on to certain, pet peeves and beliefs, and this is Brahma Vela, and this is the time of Abbrahman. That's a very important pet peeve. And then what else are other pet peeves? Then this is that, this is how the invocation has to be done. 16-step puja. And people are like that. They are die-hard karmathas. Karmathas means through karma alone moksha is. Secret belief, even though they may not be admitting it. So the 16 steps, and step by step, all the time they are thinking of other things. That doesn't matter, but the steps have to be performed. This is how we have to do this. This is how it is done. This rigidity is an immediate disqualification for the student of Vedanta. It actually cuts through the adhikaritvam inwardly like a termite. The rigidity eats through the adhikaritvam. A student has to be flexible. A shishya means you have to be flexible to face whatever there is to face, and just have the ability to go along with it, because that is when I know. That's why, in the ashrams people are kept jumping. You don't get a minute to sit down. I was at an ashram. I was at one such ashram, very well run place, I must say, in California. And I had a chance to interact with the students and talk to them a lot. They don't have a minute between their chores. Here we have it easy. Here we wonder why we have to do seva, means including picking up the cushion that we have sat on. But in other places it's extremely streamlined. There is all this time for karma yoga, time for sleep, time for wake up, time for this thing. There is no time. And then in the morning they don't know their schedule many days. The teacher will announce it after the morning puja. After the puja, the schedule is announced. Oh, but I wanted to study that. No, it doesn't matter. Even I was surprised, because I came 2 days early. And they said, okay, you start teaching today itself. I said, okay, for me it was all right. But the other students and the staff had a surprise. That is what it is. That's how it is. And in the morning, the schedule would be announced. Nobody can say that, but I don't want to do this today, because this is the schedule, this is what it is. No planning around, because what else are you doing? You're here, You're in the zenitentiary, there is no place to go. And then, and the schedule would constantly change. After lunch, it would be another add-on, or something has been taken away, or something like that. Or something else is changed, something else happens. And then they would all given certain seva, and the students keep the whole ashram going. They cook, they clean, they bring in visitors, they take the people to the airport, they clean all the cottages that need to be cleaned, they put on all the new linen and everything, they do everything. They do all the pujas. They have one priest, but mainly all the satsangs and the pujas, everything, the kirtans, morning and evening chanting, everything they take care of. Setting up and dismantling of the classrooms, everything. And so this person thought, today I am cooking, and mentally woke up, prepared to think that I am cooking, finds out at 8 o'clock in the morning that they have to drive somebody to San Francisco and bring someone else back. Oh, but I already planned to do this, and I had already cut up these vegetables. No, somebody else is cooking. This is what it is. And this is not a cruelty. This is a way to just, to make that ahankara threadbare, to just shake it out, so that the person is ready and willing to do anything, whatever the circumstances call for. We are flexible and ready to greet life as it comes. We learn to say yes without having to say no first, because this is a very Western style I have seen in the Western culture. Everybody feels like they have to have the freedom to say no before they say yes. I've never understood that. It's very confusing to me, because that is not how any of us were raised. So this is not part of my cultural upbringing at all. Never understood that. And here it is just something very funny. You ask the person something, the first thing is, no. Oh, okay. Then I go away thinking, okay, it's no. No, all right, yes. But what this first no and then yes. Because it's that, I suppose, it's the inner child or the ahankara that is feeling put upon, that is feeling that this is my arena, because one owns the place, one owns the time, one owns one's ways of being, and anything that's coming, one feels like one has to constantly be on the defense, because it's all going to be taken away. So until one sits down and says, oh, perhaps there is nothing that is taking me away from anything, then one says yes, before one says no, because one is used to this defensive posturing, because there is no flexibility, and the fear is one is already so distraught and invaded that there is no room for anything else. This is a tendency that often comes in the way of my own inner spiritual growth. This text is beautiful because this is what is saying that. Because if Bhagavan is everything, and if Abheda Darshanam is moksha, that is why these things are following that. Abheda means what? Anything I see, anything I encounter is Bhagavan, is myself alone. So if I keep saying no to everything that I encounter, then what happens? Then I'm not in a place of receptivity, I'm not in a place of preparation, I'm in a place of defense. I'm busy defending the real and perceived attacks on my time, on my space, on my anusthana. This is why the karma is brought in. Anusthana means my daily duties, my perceived idea of how my day should go. You are in the way of my day. This is the Western way of proceeding. That's why all these calendars, so much so that I have also given in and made a calendar. So of the classes. A tribute to capitalism, from my side. Anyway, so this is what it is. Everybody has a dinacharya, a calendar, and you are in my way. So this is the American collective imagination that we are constantly on attack. Even what is that thing that is sung on Independence Day, that anthem, national anthem, is also all about protecting the borders. The feeling is I'm constantly attacked. It's a sad state of a victim identity. Why are we buying into this victim identity when you are the whole? Why are you buying into this victim identity? Why are we, as a collective, group of people, forced into this corner of classifying ourselves as victims of time and victims of things that are so many things to do, there's no time for anything, there's no space for anything, and I'm constantly playing dodgeball. This is me. And then as soon as I, classify the me through my karma, kamyabhi, pratisiddhabhi, nitya karmabhi, all these things. Mata, and also connecting to the previous, through the mata-abhinivesha, through the vesha, bhusha, bhasha, all these things, through these ways, I'm defining who this I is. Then what happens? I'm excluding myself from the limitless. Yeah. And I have shut off the prasada buddhi. Prasada means what? Yes, there is no room for no. There's no room for no, because everything is okay, really. It will turn out to be okay. That Shraddha brings in prasada buddhi. And then all these things that suddenly have to be done, just dissipate. And that's how one gains akartritvam, really. That akartritvam comes as a result of this. So here, the person, in the second of these verses that we have studied today, the person who is constantly feeling oppressed by karma, that I have to do this, then I have to do this, then I have to do that, then there is no time to do what I want to do, then I want to do this. So kamya karma is want to do, nitya karma is have to do, pratisiddha karma is avoiding things not to be done. In this the whole life is gone. What a sad, sad story. In this the whole life is gone. Doing things I have to do and defending the things that I want to do, and then sidestepping the things I should not do, yet being afraid that I'll do the things I should not do. So nakamya pratisiddhabhi, nitya karma is also included. So kamya karma, things I want to do, desire based actions. Nitya karma, things that have to be done. And then what? Pratisiddha karma, what? Things should not be done, that should not be done. So when I am faithful to all these three things, and then what happens? Is moksha guaranteed? No. this is just a little foothold, a step, just an easy way to connect to that. That's all it is. It's just a way. A way has many different forms and many different options are there. So it's just one of the ways. I can't make it the way. And so, Kamya, Pratisiddha are not going to get me there. What else is not going to get me there? Because the there is right here. Yeah. So what else is? Yeah, Kriya. Kriya means any kind of actions. You know, na moksha vasana. I am not going to start desiring moksha because of these things. I am not going to have the vasana. Also means predilection to follow the spiritual path because of all these things. So what? Then what? Ishvara anugrahat. Ishvara anugrahat sa syat. What is sa? Moksha vasana, feminine. Sa, she, the desire for moksha is because of Bhagavan's anugraha, the grace of Bhagavan. Iti Vedanta Dindima. This has to be explained in a little more detail, otherwise we'll give up, even coming to class if it's all if it's all Bhagavan's grace. Why should I bother? Why should I bother turning on the computer? Why should I make an effort and an attempt to connect to the class and the classroom and the teaching and the teacher? Because it's Bhagavan, and people say this to me frequently. I will say to them, how is your family? Oh, wonderful. How is your husband? Wonderful. How come he's not here? He says his calling has not come. Yeah. As though Bhagavan is going to take one megaphone and say, hello, Aajao, come. So that needs a little explaining. Very beautiful, but we'll see the connections after a short break. Om Purnamadah Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.